Steve Bannon could be held in contempt of Congress if he refuses to answer big questions about the Russia probe. Now, why wouldn't he be talking? There's a new report that says it is because Donald Trump personally intervened. Foreign Policy reporting two sources with, quote, firsthand knowledge about all this say Donald Trump personally made the decision to limit Bannon's testimony. It was all because a person in the White House counsel's office said the administration could have legitimate executive privilege claims to restrict the testimony by Bannon. Now, they might have claims to executive privilege. And by the way, if that's the White House counsel's position, it makes perfect sense that they would try to lawfully limit Bannon's testimony. But then again, there's something else here. Take a listen to White House Chief of Staff John Kelly last night.
Did the White House tell him to invoke executive privilege?
No.
No.
Steve has had very, very little contact with the White House since he left, with the exception of a few phone calls here and there. Very, very little contact with the White House.
According to Foreign Policy magazine, John Kelly's either then out of the loop or not being truthful. We will stay on that part of the story, but there's more. Another Trump staffer also ducking questions. Top aide Hope Hicks was supposed to testify before the House Intel Committee tomorrow. NBC News learning her testimony has also, at least temporarily, been put on hold. I'm joined by former Watergate Special Prosecutor Nick Ackerman and Maya Harris, an attorney and former advisor to Hillary Clinton. Nick, there are some who see you as skeptical of the White House position on these issues, but I think it is fair to say lawfully that there can be legitimate claims to executive privilege, especially before the Congress, as opposed to Mueller. Do you see anything wrong with how this is going down?
Well, I see a couple things. First of all, executive privilege does not apply to Donald Trump until January 20th, 2017, when he was sworn in as president. There's no such thing as president-elect privilege. It's like saying there's a attorney-client privilege when somebody's in law school and they're not an attorney. It just doesn't make sense. There is lots of material to question Steve Bannon on prior to January 20th. That's the time period, for example, when Michael Flynn spoke to the Russian ambassador and lied to the FBI about sanctions. So, yeah, I'm extremely skeptical here. To me, it all looks like a cover-up.
And Maya, part of this that's important is the politics. People think of Devin Nunes and some of the House Republicans as having backed up Donald Trump on Russia. But now we're in a type of fight where, according to Foreign Policy magazine, it's Donald Trump himself intervening and deciding he wants Bannon silenced, which is now a subpoena-level fight with House Republicans, which I think gives some credence to what we'll call the Nick Ackerman theory, that there's more to this. Otherwise, why are these groups that were playing defense together on Russia suddenly at loggerheads? Add to that another piece of sound that is brand new tonight. I doubt anyone at home has seen this yet. This is a man that you rarely see on camera, Ty Cobb, the White House lawyer for the president. He represents the president's criminal issues and the Russia probe, not just sort of the broader questions of legality, talking about potential testimony by guess who? Donald Trump.
The president is very eager to sit down and explain whatever is responsive to the questions that the Office of Special, very eager, to explain to the special counsel, whatever responses are required.
Maya, is the president very eager to testify in that Mueller hot seat? And your view of the issues with the House Republicans now fighting with the White House?
Well, he's clearly very eager to get this investigation over with. I don't know that I'd say he's eager to sit down with Bob Mueller. And there was an interesting other part of that interview where they talked about whether or not the lawyer Ty Cobb might be afraid of a perjury trap being set for Donald Trump if he does, in fact, sit down with Bob Mueller. And of course, given the chronic habitual lying that this president does, over 2,000 lies in his first year in office, I think the perjury trap he should be concerned about is the one that he might might set for himself. But I don't think this ends without Donald Trump actually sitting down for an interview, either voluntarily or by subpoena, with Bob Mueller. But to your question about the Congress, leave it to Steve Bannon to be the person to actually unite the Congressional Committee, Republicans and Democrats, to get a subpoena slapped on him, to get him to talk. And, I think it's because of his assertion of a privilege that goes well beyond the scope of what's permissible. I mean, he was reportedly trying to assert the privilege related to things during the campaign, during the transition, potentially after he's left the White House. And clearly, the executive privilege doesn't extend that far.
So you're sort of saying if you're unpopular enough, you can unite anyone.
Well, looks like that happened in the Congress this week.
Nick, there's so many stories going. This is another one I wanted to get to. One of the big things that has emerged about Bob Mueller legally is that he is assertive. So there was talk before he got going on the Russia probe that, yes, Paul Manafort and others had maybe hid their foreign lobbying, and maybe that's shady, but that's rarely prosecuted, which is technically true. And Bob Mueller came out and pushed forward on prosecuting people for hiding foreign lobbying under this rule that's now gotten more attention, the Foreign Agents Registration Act. And if you care about good governments, forget the politics, that could be a positive thing. And now we're seeing some results from this. This is also a brand new story I want to read to you. The Mueller effect here, these filings soaring in the shadow of the Manafort and Flynn probes. And the data firm who worked for Trump's campaign, attracting the interest of Mueller's investigators, recently filed paperwork showing it had helped spread negative information about Qatar, one of hundreds of new filings by these lobbyists since Mueller charged two Trump aides with, of course, their failure to disclose their lobbying for foreign countries. Nick, it's a mouthful. It doesn't get enough attention, and yet it's important because I wonder if you think Bob Mueller being tough on lobbyists is actually forcing things in Washington otherwise wouldn't even be happening.
Yeah, it's clearly a good thing. Look, the whole purpose of the criminal law is to act as a deterrent to conduct that's illegal and criminal. And here, I mean, obviously the deterrent effect of this indictment has had some effect. But keep in mind, the violations of this act requiring registration is just one small part of a multi-million-dollar scam to cheat the government out of millions of dollars of taxes and to launder money through Russia, Cyprus, and into the United States.